Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wiregrass Haunts. This is Stan Fikes, your host. We are back again. Last night we had a great show. We were talking about Miss Jamie Dodson's memorial uh, investigation that Blaine Rohan and Scott Dodson has invited us to, actually, at Fort Morgan and Fort Gaines. This happens this weekend. So we want to also mention that again tonight. Keep your eyes open on Facebook for all the posts and everything. We want to thank y'all for listening to last night's show. It was awesome, awesome. Um, Again, we want to thank Mr. Scott Dodson and Blaine Rowan for being on the show. And tonight we have an awesome, awesome show. We have Mr. Edward Morgan and Michael and Leah Golston, and they are from Paranormal Help Research Bureau. Edward is a demonologist, and also Michael is a demonologist. And tonight we're going to get into talking about how that come about and a whole bunch of stuff on demons and that type of thing, the paranormal. And I'm pretty sure a whole bunch of God stuff's going to come back through too, because we're going to be blessed. So I want everybody to take notice that these shows that we've been having here lately, there's been a whole bunch of paranormal activity that has just kicked up in the last couple of months. I know from my team as well. And I've talked to several other paranormal teams that they have just been eat up by calls. And y'all, everybody needs to pray. We just, whatever you do, whatever your belief is, you need to get with that, because things are changing really fast. And my wife just said, "I hear you now." Okay, awesome, Teresa. But anyway, we've got a little bit of a weather system coming through, so if you hear thundering and stuff in the background, that's just the weather outside. It's nothing to do with the show. So, all right. Well, without further ado, I'm getting ready to bring these guys in. Everybody, please welcome Mr. Edward Morgan and Michael and Leah Golston. Hey, guys, are you there?
We're here, Stan. Hey.
Awesome, awesome. So how have y'all been?
We've been doing good. As far as the team and the ministry, we've been pretty busy the last year and a half, and God's opened up some really good opportunities and doors for us, and we're just doing what we're called to do, and God's blessed us.
Good, of course. Every morning I'm a meat cutter, and every morning when I go to work, my certain customers come in, and they'll they'll speak to me and ask me how I'm doing. I always say I'm blessed, because any day that I can get up and go to work and talk and walk and not have a whole bunch of pains, I am just super blessed, because there was a whole bunch of people woke up totally different than I did.
You're absolutely surprised, Stan. That's a good attitude to have, sir.
So, I like to enrich other people by, giving them a good word every day. And, God is the best word, so why not? So,
I agree, yes.
So, guys, what I'd like you to do is introduce yourself, give your role within the group, and what you guys are up to now.
All right, Stan, I'll start, I guess. My name's Ed Morgan. As far as our ministry, I'm the team leader. What my job is we do the initial client contacts, we do the interviews, we coordinate the cases if we need other investigators to help us out. There has been situations where we have to reach out to community events and provide counseling, religious counseling, work-life counseling, sexual abuse counseling. We're very fortunate and blessed to have those contacts in the community. That's what I do as far as my role in the team. I'll just give you a little bit of background how I get started, if that's okay.
Sure.
All right. So I got involved in the paranormal late 1996. Had a situation, was working for a youth group. Had a young man, this was pre-cell phone times. Young man kind of disappeared from my youth group. Couldn't really find him. Finally found his where he lived and talked to his mother, and some weird things were happening. And I was completely blank and naive of the situation, how serious it was. And I was fortunate and blessed. There was a man in the church that was in his mid-80s at the time. He's been passed. That took me under his wing and showed me what he did as far as spiritual warfare involving people who have demonic issues. And the one thing that I'll say, Stan, that I've learned, it is not what's on TV. We can't go in, do a 6-hour investigation and fix everything if you don't want to fix something yourself. We realize that it's not a cookie-cutter mentality. Each case is different. Each client is different. So we have to take the time and the effort and the prayer and meditation to give the client. And our only goal as a team, Stan, some teams focus on evidence or scary locations, and that's fine. I and the rest of the team enjoy that as well. But our focus is to make sure people are comfortable in their homes. That's it. And that they're empowered. And that's our main goal, and is to give God the glory and give everyone the power and the authority that they have through Christ. And that's what we do, Stan.
Wow, that's awesome.
I'll go ahead and pass it to Leah. Leah is our discernment advisor. Before she says anything, Stan, to your listeners out there, if you've ever heard of Ed and Lorraine Warren, I'm sure everybody has, right?
Yes.
They're pretty much a staple in this community. The first time I was able to investigate with Michael and Leah, I realized they operated almost identical the way Ed and Lorraine operate. And, you don't have to worry about, confirmation bias or, getting evidence or suggestions. The way that they approach it is amazing. And it really, really drills down to our clients and the people that we help and gets them the help and the tools and the information they need. But they're great folks. I love them. God's really blessed me with them coming into our ministry. But Miss Leah, let's go ahead and tell you about ourselves.
Okay, so I'm Leah, and just like Ed said, I'm the discernment and also a spiritual advisor on the team. And also that he didn't mention, which is a huge part, is I'm team admin, which means I do a lot of the paperwork and newsletter and making sure that everything is spelled correctly and in proper grammar.
Right.
And that's the full-time job.
Yes, my wife does that for me, so.
Absolutely.
So she understands completely.
Yes.
But as far as the team goes, and when we're on an investigation, I have the gifting of discernment. A lot of people have tried to label me with psychic abilities or maybe as a sensitive along those lines. But with us being biblically based, I have the gifting of discernment. So what that means is basically a spiritual wisdom. God allows me to be able to go into places and see what's going on and see where the problems have originated, what brought them on, and then what would be a good avenue to bring deliverance and freedom from whatever our client is bound to. I've really haven't been, well, I guess I have been kind of investigating for, how long have I been investigating for? I guess, yeah, for about 10 years. I've always been able to see things, God has granted me a spiritual insight ever since I can ever remember when I was little. And anyone that has this gifting, it's a gift because it's labeled as a gift in the Bible, but no one would really ever ask for it to a certain degree. There's some things that I just wish I didn't have to see.
Sure.
But I am thankful that and blessed that I do have this gifting and I'm able to use it to help others and, of course, for God's glory. But yeah, I help others to find truth and answers to what they're experiencing, and not just leaving them with that. We also help to equip them and give them knowledge of how to overcome those fears and also those concerns. We also provide a lot of education and support. Ed mentioned we do help to empower those individuals and to take authority back over their homes. We have authority. God granted us that authority over things that are demonic. So we help them find those tools and resources, or we give those tools and resources and help them to find that peace. So that's basically my role.
Wow. How long have you known that you've had this gift? From childhood, or?
Yes, I knew I could always see things, and I was raised in a very stout religious home. My father's a minister, and the denomination that I was raised in, we just didn't really talk about those kinds of things. It was kind of looked at as being, taboo or playing around with things. But what we don't really understand or didn't understand at that time was that it was an actual gifting of discernment. It's not, hey, I can see in the future, I'm a psychic, or, I'm this or I'm that. It's, God really, I went through a period of time of what's wrong with me? Is something wrong with me? Why am I able to see this when I knew that I was not playing around with things demonic or not in a demonic realm? So as I grew and matured spiritually, then God revealed it to me. And then eventually, not long after that, after he revealed that, then, of course, he helped me to understand my calling. And since then, I have just absorbed all that I can in the Word, and through power, through prayer, rather, I have prayer and a lot of studying have been able to mature, and so I can effectively use that gift.
That's awesome. When I hear somebody that has acknowledged the fact that God has given them the gift that they have, and not just it was just there, okay? Because nothing is ever just there. It comes from some point, and that's just awesome. And it's been a long time since I've heard people just refer to as a God-given gift. So, I certainly can't. I'm not given a gift like that by God. Of course, I have another gift, but that's just wonderful. And I know that you enjoy that, but sometimes it's hard to react to some of the things that you experience. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. There's been a lot of things we've encountered that have been very upsetting and frightful, and things that, come back to my remembrance later on, that just, for lack of a better term, just give you the heebie-jeebies. And,
yeah.
And, you wish you had never seen it, but people really don't understand when God calls you, it's not just, hey, you're going to be on rainbows and sunshine. There's a responsibility to it. There are things that you're going to have to endure and encounter that are not pleasant. But if you keep your focus, then you're able to handle those things and draw on the strength that God gives you to be able to go through it.
Right. Well, I mean, God has to have given you that gift for something. And obviously, it's some sort of battle against demonic spirits or what have you. So, do you find that these spirits kind of, when you realize that they're there and they realize that you can do what you can do they try to acknowledge you, contact you, or do they even attack you in any way?
Oh, absolutely. There was this one instance, actually. I mean, when you are shining with the light of God, demons recognize who you are immediately. There was a time where I went to go pick up some dry cleaning, and the lady at the counter, I'd never met her before, never had even been in that establishment before. Mike had actually dropped off the clothing. I'd never been in there, but I went to pick it up. And the moment I walked in, you can just feel the atmosphere change. And we never said one word to each other during the whole interaction or transaction. But she just had this smirk and this look about her. And I just knew instantly we were having a nonverbal spiritual battle within ourselves of what was in her and then what's in me. And that was one of the most awe-inspiring moments of it kind of gives you that I'm glad that things recognize who I am and who I am in Christ, but also, hey, I have authority over you type thing. And, it was just kind of that battle of will of, well, who's going to make that first move? Or are you going to try, it was just the strangest and most extraordinary thing I've ever encountered. And, but yeah, anytime that we've been anywhere or whatever, it'll try to fool me or try a non-threatening little kid or, somebody's meemaw, but it's really, when I push through, it recognizes the authority that I have through God, and then it shows itself for what it really is.
Wow. And that happens to you pretty much anywhere that you go. I mean, when you come in contact with people that are, I don't want to say possessed or anything like that, just someone that's not exactly right. We'll say it that way. And so you pick up on that, and your inner being or your inner self has a conflict with them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. God opens up that it's like almost a second sight. The only way I can describe it, and because of course lots of people have asked me this question, well, how do you see that, or what do you see, or what form does it come into? But it's like watching reality through my regular eyesight, but then it's like a movie picture overlay that shows what is additionally there. So if you have someone that is eat up or oppressed with something demonic, it's like I can see it touching them or squeezing them, or it's like a chain around them. And then God reveals to me what has been bound. Wow. That's the best way I can describe it. It's like a vinyl overlay. I don't know if you've ever seen those old-timey Bibles where they would have the pictures, and then you had like the little clear plastic thing that would lay over the regular picture, and it would kind of give another layer to that picture. That's kind of how I see the world.
Oh, wow. That's got to be kind of difficult sometimes, though. Looking through a situation like that. Can you also see the good in someone as well, or is it just conflict with the negativity or whatever they're having a problem with?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can see or feel or experience the good in someone. You feel that camaraderie or that authenticity with them. It's really it becomes, I guess, like a stench or an uneasiness or like a guttural type feeling that, hey, something's not right. And then the longer you're in that situation, then the more insight you get to what's wrong.
So when you experience that, when you meet somebody that you experience that with, and you acknowledge this is what's happening, what is your next step? I mean, is you wait for God to give you a message on what to do, or give that person a word, or how do you move forward with that?
Well, it depends. It depends on what setting I'm in. I mean, if we're on an investigation, then we're there to help the client. So it's a complete reveal, meaning holding nothing back, even if it's scary or tough or may even be frightening to the client. If I withhold anything and I'm not completely open with them about what's going on, then that's not going to benefit them at all. They're not going to understand the importance to be compliant with our suggestions for resolution. If it's just every day out in the world, then I rely on God to give me guidance. I may start a conversation that might eventually lead to, hey, are you okay? Or, hey, have you been going through some stuff here recently? Or, is there anything, that you'd like to talk about? There's always lead-ins, and then you just kind of follow the prompting of the Holy Spirit.
So you guys engage in a lot of prayer with your clients and that type of thing?
I'm going to let Mike handle that one. He's our we call it our prayer dude.
Prayer dude. That's a good name. All right. Mike, prayer dude.
I can't follow that. I mean,
We're not worthy now.
yeah, I know.
She did good, didn't she?
Where to
That's
begin? All right. So, as far as my role on the team, I am the team demonologist and spiritual advisor. I very much believe in the power of prayer. We pray anytime we try to get together. We try to have prayer, even if it's just to have a meal together. Whenever we go on investigation, I pray for the team and the location before we go in. Sometimes before we arrive, I'll pray. I'll pray when we get there, and I'll absolutely pray before we leave, because a lot of people don't realize whenever they go to a location that has activity, you've got to take care of yourself. It's not just a simple matter of going in and coming out and expecting nothing. You can't jump in the river without getting wet.
That's right.
Kind of mentality. You go into a place that's potentially got some sort of demonic activity, you can take things home with you. And a lot of people take that entirely too lightly, and they don't prepare themselves. I like to go to the book of Ephesians and the whole armor of God. I mean, I am a full believer, and you've got to prep yourself for battle. When I first got into this field, I got into this field around about the same time as Ed, mid-'90s. Ed and I actually went to school together in high school, and one of the first investigations, if you would even call it that I went on, was to check out an old cemetery not too far from where he lived. And that's kind of how I started. I mean, it's not a very noble way to get into the field. Going to cemeteries, going to alleged haunted places, and just, trying to get a thrill, if you want to call it that. Unfortunately, I feel like that's the mentality of a lot of people today, is going in, getting, pardon the expression, I'm going to steal an Edward saying here, but getting their jollies off on a haunted location and just doing whatever. The biggest problem with that is people can go into these locations and act and conjure things without realizing it.
Right.
You don't even have to have a Ouija board. And I mean, of course, a lot of people do that. But I mean, people will go someplace and try to make a ghost appear just through their words. And something may not happen while they're there, but they may take it home with them. Or worse yet, they can cause that location to have activity that may have not had it before.
Like we've always said, the devil's not going to show up in a red suit and a pitchfork and go, I'm going to torment you. He's going to slide in as secretly and easily as he can, and he'll be all over you before you even realize it.
Absolutely. And that's where I feel like I grew in the paranormal investigating community, if you will, is because as I got older, I kind of saw what I would say the error of my ways, the immaturity of what I was doing. And I started looking for answers. And because I knew that there had to be more out there than what I could see just with my own two eyes. I am the complete exact opposite of Leah. I am I refer to myself as spiritually dead. I see nothing. I feel nothing. But I started out just investigating, looking for answers. And oddly enough, I didn't find the answers in a graveyard or a haunted house. I found them in the church. I started attending a church locally with Leah. We were dating at the time. And it just kind of opened my eyes to a whole nother realm, because it's odd to go into a church and someone goes, oh, well, what do you do for hobby? And I say, well, I hunt ghosts. And they look at you in dead seriousness and go, oh, well, we have a whole ministry that deals with that. And I'm like, really? You have ministry that deals with ghost hunting? And it was spiritual warfare is what they were talking about. And I started reading up on that. I started studying it, listening to messages, and I realized that there's a whole nother level to this. I started out just to help people, to give them peace of mind. Go into a location, and first thing I try to do, and this is one of my gifts, is to debunk, find a natural cause for what's going on in the home before we try to label something paranormal. Because I think if I were a homeowner, I would rather someone tell me, hey, you need a new water heater, than the devil's
Right.
living in your wall. Know what I mean?
I do, exactly, yes.
So we, in doing that, learning about spiritual warfare, it gave me a whole nother level and a whole new aspect to look at this with. Now, the devil isn't hiding behind every bush. I mean, there are things out there that I believe in angels. I believe in demons. I believe residual energy. I mean, if you go to in the area we live in, there's the Chickamauga battlefield not too far from where we are. I believe that there is energy there. I don't think it's intelligent, but I have seen many things in my life that I know is not a dead relative or anything of that nature. And I have been witness to an exorcism, or what was referred to as an exorcism. I have seen things cast out of people. I've seen people delivered of things. And that's kind of what I see it as, is what I do. I'm not an exorcist. I have authority granted to me through Jesus Christ over these things. One of my favorite verses is in Romans. If God is for us, who can be against us? And I am not going to be afraid. I mean, you have to know where to pick your battles and how to equip yourself for them. But I serve a mighty God. And when the end time comes and Satan is revealed, we're going to find out he's nothing but a little worm. And so I'm going to use that authority and that power given to me while I'm here to show him he has no authority. As the time comes for his final downfall, he's going to try harder and harder to try to get people. And I feel like that's my calling in life, is to show people that they don't have to have the devil ride them all the time. First of all, you can't give the devil a saddle. If you're doing that, he's going to ride you all the time. And most of the time when people have the problems with the devil in their life, it's because they've opened a door themselves. And that's one of the biggest things to show people in deliverance, is when they're like, man, my kids are doing this, my kids hate me, things are flying around my house, things are moving, what do I do? Well, one of the first questions I ask is there anything that you may have done in your home? My favorite one, and this is, you ask people, I say, have you ever dabbled in any sort of witchcraft, or have you dealt with a Ouija board? And 95% of the time, the answer I get back is, well, when I was 18 years old, I touched a Ouija board once. And I'm like, that's all it really takes. That's all it takes. And I like to ramble, so I'm going to pause for a second.
No, you're doing great, brother. Keep going. Yeah.
But I mean, just in short and sweet, whenever Leah and I go in together on an investigation, I mean, Ed makes I always laugh at him when he says we're like Ed and Lorraine, but I think we balance out each other really, really well. I take care of the prayer and getting us in there. I look for natural explanations. I debunk things. And she goes through and sees what she can find. And then together we come to a conclusion on what needs to be done to either clear something out. It can be something as simple as just a simple blessing, or it can be all out, full-blown spiritual warfare, casting something out.
Wow. Yeah, one of the things they're not talking about, Stan, is the way they operate. So the reason I keep bringing this up is, in the paranormal community, there's more of a focus about finding something than they are searching the truth and helping people. Mm-hmm. So what we do is, when we get a client, Michael handles the phones, I handle all the emails. We'll go talk to them. Now we'll go talk to them without Leah there, because Leah goes in completely cold. She knows, well, as far as the case, she doesn't know anything. And what happens is Michael documented everything on paper beforehand, and she doesn't know anything. So when she comes back and it matches what we've already documented on paper, it gives credit and credibility to what we're actually finding. And for the client, we never go in and go, well, this is a possibility, this is a possibility. We like to go back and go, this is what's happening, this is what you have to do. You have to make these changes. Some of the changes
they're difficult.
They're difficult. Like I said at the beginning, God has really blessed us with. We had a really tough case a year ago. Almost wrecked the team, in my opinion, and it messed me up for a little while. And through that, God gave us some community help where they can get free counseling, free medication if they need it. And that's the things that you don't see on TV. We go in and if we remove something, that's great. But if you remove something and it's still empty, you've got to fill that up with something. And that's what we go with our client. And, we don't have a single client, Stan, that we don't stay in contact with. We'll check up on them every once in a while. We'll see them in public. And I'll speak for myself. We had a client about this time last year involved some young children, and that's always the highest priority. I think it is for everybody.
Yes.
And what had actually happened is we were able to give those young people some information and tools and remove some things. And about 6 months later, I ran into her and her mother at Walmart, and she came up and gave me a hug. And when, most of us have children, I have grandchildren, and we have people we love. And when you have loved ones that don't feel comfortable in their home, that touches our hearts as a team, and that's one of our goals.
So, when a client contacts you guys, do you guys do like an interview or a consult of a certain way, and then do you physically investigate?
Well, I'll take that one, Stan. Since I'm in the phones, it depends upon the need of the situation. Now, our number is out there on our website. It's a local phone number here in Chattanooga, but it's posted for anybody to get in contact with us. And we have had phone calls from people in New Jersey, Montana, Chicago. We had a case that reached out to us through our website in Canada. So, I mean, some of these locations, obviously, we have the inability to pick up and get there as soon as possible. But we're blessed with the ability with this the number to be able to outreach to people, because sometimes all it is just a matter of discussing with somebody their options. Because usually by the time someone has called us, they're at their wits' end. I can't tell you the number of conversations I've had with people where sometime before the conversation is over is they'll say something along the lines of, you must think I'm crazy. Or if my boyfriend or my girlfriend heard me talking about this, they would think I'm crazy. And the first thing I tell them is, you're not. You're not crazy by any means. So whenever someone calls with a problem, even if it's just a phone conversation, I ask, what kind of activity are they having? Try to narrow it down to see if there's any possibility for something that could be natural in that. There are some tough questions that are asked upon occasion. Past mental illness, medications that they might possibly be on at that moment. And then, of course, like I mentioned earlier, I will ask about past delving into witchcraft, things of that nature, any history of even family having done that, because stuff can be passed on through generations. Whether you or I, Stan, have ever done anything, we may have not dealt with, a Ouija board or have done some sort of seance, but if someone in our family down the line may have, then that could potentially come back on us. That's biblical. And what you have to do there is speak against that. You have to find the root and speak against it and rebuke it. And we have authority to be able to do that. And one of the best feelings in the world, at least over the phone, is to be able just to tell somebody all this, just to hear them out first, because they want to talk. They just want to get it out. Because like I said, a lot of them feel crazy for the way they feel. But to be able to talk to us and to have someone that actually believes them and cares to listen, at the end, once you've told them what needs to be done, just that you can feel or hear the pressure coming off of them when, they say, thank you. Thank you for what you've done. And we always have everyone keep in touch. If something becomes worse or something doesn't, pan out, call us back. That's what we're here for, night or day. Give us a call. Local cases, pretty much the same setup. Once the interview is done, we'll move on from there to try to schedule something. Usually we try to schedule a face-to-face interview after the phone, and we may not even go to the location immediately on that first interview. We'll meet with the client, discuss with them. If we have the opportunity to go to the location and do a walkthrough, we will. Sometimes, I don't know with one yet where we've done the investigation immediately, but based on need, if it's there, we do it. But then we go forward from there as far as scheduling, and we always try to be flexible with what the client can work with.
Hmm. So when you do proceed with a physical investigation, do you guys have equipment that you use, DVR systems, that type of thing, cameras?
We do, sir. We have a night vision DVR system. We have, of course, the audio recorders, the flashlights, the radios. We got the EMF gauges. We have all the gadgets and stuff. And we use those a lot of times more to debunk than we are to prove something.
Absolutely.
Right.
About the only piece of equipment that, for me personally, is a standard is this auto recording. And the reason is not only from a paranormal point of view, but from a safety point of view. We are in an individual's home or business, and we've known them for maybe 3 days if we're lucky. So we want to document what we're doing, how we're doing it. That way, if there's any, pushback on anything that we might be accused of, we've got to be careful there. But as far as the equipment, yeah, we have we have the night vision cameras. We've got some really cool, interesting things on cameras. We've got some really good things on, I think the term would be a Class A EVP,
Okay.
where none of us were in the room. You can hear all of us in the background. And we can't debunk it, so we're not saying there's what it is, but we're saying there's something there.
So when you're on an investigation and you do pick up on something, whether it be a tick on the K2 or whatever the case may be, and you can't debunk it. So do you believe that you possibly have encountered some sort of malevolent or demonic spirit?
If there is, and Leo will follow up with me on this one, from a team leader point of view, if we have a hit and we can't debunk it, we kind of have to focus on that, right? So just like in a regular investigation, I have a law enforcement background for a decade and a half. What you have to do is you've got to focus on an anomaly. What's causing that? If you can't disprove anything or prove anything, we've got to figure out what it is. It could be something hiding from a spiritual realm, but 90% of the time, Leah is blessed enough to have the gifts that she has, and she's able to pick those up pretty intensely, even if it's hiding, and it's hiding very well. She's pretty quick to tell us, hey, there is something here. We need to be careful. If it gets too intense or we're going in and doing our job as what God's commanded us to do, and we start agitating that, which is normal, Leah will throw up the red flags. I can add, Leah, can you tell us if you can pick up on anything that potentially could be hidden or try to hide?
Well, there's been many instances where things have shown itself to me as, I can describe something and it'll have a human form, or it may look like an individual. There was a case specifically that we went to an apartment, and the mom was concerned because her son, he was, how old was that little boy? 3 years old. And he, of course, had an imaginary friend. Well, what started to concern the mom was he eventually started getting scratches, and then they started encountering other things around the home. Well, when I first walked in, it revealed itself to me as a little boy who is actually sitting in the middle of the living room playing with some toy trucks and trains and cars. But there was something off about how he looked. So that's automatically a red flag. There's going to be some sort of deformity or disfigurement, or and it may not be blatant. It may be just a dark eye color, or maybe something on the side of the body not kind of lining up with the other side of the body. But it could be subtle or it could be blatant. But anyway, there's just something off about this figure that I was seeing. And just knowing from a biblical basis that, we don't hang around after we die. Our soul, our spirit moves on to eternity. So as we kept pushing, and I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Pushing and not accepting the form that it was taking, then it started getting agitated and then it eventually revealed itself for what it was. So that's the thing. And I have friends that are mediums or psychics, and they talk about, going to a location and being able to describe things that are revealed to them through whatever means. And they'll say, it looks like a woman in Victorian clothing or this or that. But that's just where it stops. If we delve deeper and we start confronting these things, then I think they'll start to reveal and open up themselves up more to these other individuals that are seeing them as something pretty benign.
So whenever when you see this or experience this entity or whatever, do you ever get a name of it, or do you ask it its name or anything? Whenever it kind of reveals that it's not a child or whatever. I mean, is that something that's normal?
Oh yeah. I don't always get a name, but it's something that I've gotten names, and I always ask for a name.
Hello?
You still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything went dark there for a sec.
Oh, sorry. No, I was saying I always ask for a name. I don't always get a name, but I always ask for one.
So when you guys try to confront this entity, as I call it, and you have a name, does that give you any type of dominion over the spirit or demonic spirit?
Absolutely. Once you're able to identify what it is or what its name is, you have the authority over it. I mean, whenever Jesus spoke to the possessed man in the Bible, and he was able to identify it, he asked, what's your name? He said, we are Legion. My name is Legion, for we are many. When you have the name over something, I mean, I know your name. I can call you by your name. So it's the same thing with the demonic. I mean, once you have its name, you have authority, and then you can deal with it appropriately.
Uh-huh. And whenever you reveal that that this spirit, that it's not an earthbound spirit or something that's good in any way, and you get a name, does it like physically attack you guys or mentally, spiritually? How do you handle that if something occurs?
All the above.
Totally.
What we have to do as a team, we always have to be self-aware. We've worked with each other enough, and God has gave all of us a little discernment, not to the level that Leah has, but if Michael's getting overwhelmed or he's being attacked in his mind and he can't pray out loud, we'll notice that. We'll pull out. We'll do prayers, give him more protection. We had a situation where, for me personally, I felt normal, but Leah and Michael realized I was being attacked. And not physically attacked, but I knew in my mind that it was attacking my mind. And I during the situation, Stan, I didn't know it was happening, but Michael and Leah realized what it was, and they pulled me out. We took a break, regrouped, They explained to me what happened. We made our preparations through prayer, through the protection of the blood of Christ, and then we went back in and did battle. And that's one of the things that we have to ask the client point blank. We are not going to go in, figure out if this is a demonic spirit. We're not going to go in and tell you and come back and go, this is something you need to do. And then for them to come back and go, well, I just want to learn something from it. Well, that's not what we do, Stan. And I say that we actually had a individual say that it was very, very heart wrenching. Still is. We do monthly news articles, and I really suggest everyone check those out. Leah does an amazing job making Michael and I look pretty smart. Which that within itself is a God-given talent. For me, a box of rocks is too intelligent for me. But we have to ask the client, what do you want? We're not going to say, hey, this is, there is something evil here. We're going to say, if you want to, we'll find out what it is, and we're going to get rid of it, point blank. Now, there's no use of us getting rid of it if you're going to allow it back in.
Right.
And one thing I'll say, a lot of, through some of these TV shows and a lack of understanding and training, and I'm not blaming nobody. We made our mistakes, and God knows we're not perfect. But there's not a special prayer. There's not a special thing you can wear. You can't wear a cross, or you can't wear a picture of a donkey's backside. That's going to protect you from spirit. It is daily communication in the acceptance of Jesus Christ that's going to protect us from this. You said earlier at the beginning of the show that the last few months that you've been getting more cases, right?
That's right.
Well, I've got a theory about this, and Michael and Leah and I have actually talked about this before. And I've got a theory about this, and this is for, people can believe what they want to in this country, and that's great. But from a biblical point of view, we kind of believe that the end times are coming. And the closer to the end times we get, the veil between natural and supernatural, the veil between good and evil is getting thinner and thinner.
Right.
We're getting in the last quarter. We're in the last quarter, the last 2 minutes of the game, and the devil's playing all these dirty tricks to win. He goes through everything from, TV shows to doing stuff you're not supposed to on the internet, to speaking bad things about people. There's 1,000 things. But we have seen the last year a big upkick of people, not just, I got a picture of a dust bunny, or I've got a picture of, I use FaceTime and I'm freaking out. It's not that stuff. And that just goes back to know your equipment and your apps and know what they can do, But we have seen a huge increase where even investigators, we help investigators sometimes. They'll go in and try to do something where they've seen it on TV, or they bought a book, or they downloaded something off the internet, and they recite the prayers, but it don't do no good because they don't believe what they're saying.
Exactly.
And so.
Well, it's a pretty genius plan. We have been exposed so much to the paranormal field within the last few years through TV shows, of course, all these movies and everything, and that we have become, desensitized to it. So people, of course, see it as a form of entertainment, but do not realize what heavy responsibility it takes when you're actually on an investigation. It's not, sitting around and saying, if you're here, not 3 times. This is real. It
Yes.
is very much real. And just the simplest of something you say, or a movement or a motion, can open up a wide door for any type of attack. And it's not going to attack, like we said before, where it's in a red jumpsuit. It's going to hit you at whatever your vice is or your weakness is. I may not have a weakness to drink, but if I have been an alcoholic, it's going to hit me the hardest there. So if the devil tries to hit me with alcohol, it's not going to do nothing. But to somebody that is a recovering alcoholic, it's going to hit them hot and heavy. Folks that love to gossip or use their tongue for speaking death instead of life, it's going to put them in situations to where they're gossiping more, they're saying more about this person, or it's just constantly putting that negativity out into the atmosphere.
You are absolutely right. I can't express how right you are. I've experienced that recently. So the gossip thing and these demonic creatures, as I call them, attacking people on when they're down, so to speak. It's kind of like kicking them when they're down, and that's what starts the whole oppression and the depression, oppression, and then the possession. And have you guys ever seen a full blown physical possession?
Yes. This was actually before the team was founded. I went on an investigation with a previous group to a home. It was a residence, and it was just excuse me. When we got to the residence, we spent probably 4 or 5 hours just in doing an investigation. We did a setup, tried EVP sessions, tried calling things out. We had a little bit of activity going on, but nothing really spectacular, nothing to write home about. It seemed more than anything that it was trying to separate us as a group. We would all be in one room, and a sound would happen in another room. Someone would go to check it out, and then the sound would be in another room. Someone would go in another room to check it out, and then someone in that room that we had just left would be touched by something. Just small things like that. So as the night progressed, we weren't really getting anything, so we stopped. And the homeowner was not present, so we contacted them and said, we're wrapping up if you guys are ready to come on back to your home, and we'll give you a rundown of anything we experienced tonight, and then we'll go over the evidence and we'll get back to you. So whenever they got back, they had a 16-year-old daughter, and she had been having some problems in her life. She'd been acting out of character, and they felt like that part of the activity was surrounding her. Of course, at the time, one thing about this field is you're always learning, and you're always you can't just discount something because you haven't seen it or you don't know anything about it. You have to continuously learn from your mistakes, and we've all made mistakes. We brought the girl back in because we thought, oh, maybe it's poltergeist. She is of that age. Things can happen. Maybe she's had something traumatic happen. She's a young girl, 15, 16 years old. She comes home, and whenever she walks into the house, everything's just fine and dandy. We're talking to the mother. She comes in. We had been told, I've neglected to add this, we've been told when we came in on this investigation to bring a priest with us. So we had brought an Anglican priest in that was helping us with the investigation, and I am completely glad that he was there, because when the girl walked in, it was like someone had flipped on a switch. The atmosphere in the house just completely changed. She at first was real nice and happy, but then she got really, really dark. You could just see her countenance change. She sat down on the couch and just proceeded to give the evil eye to everybody. When we tried to speak to her, she wouldn't acknowledge us. She was sitting there with her hands balled up into fists. When the priest walked over to take a look at her, she wouldn't, again, acknowledge. So we decided that we needed to do a full house blessing. So we did the house blessing, walking through, and the girl still is not acknowledging anybody as she sits on the couch. The priest goes to talk to her again, and we notice now that there's blood coming from the palms of her hands because she has dug her fingernails into her hands because she's balled up her fists so tight. At that time, the priest decides that he's going to go through with the rite of exorcism. Now, there were probably 6 or 7 of us. I can't remember the exact number, not counting the priest, that were there when this all went down. We were in the kitchen when this all took place. He moved her to the kitchen table and proceeded to go through the rites, and she's just sitting there growling, and it's almost like you would see in the movie, but not quite. Not as violent. She just, whenever he tries to speak Jesus or he tries to put a cross against her, she doesn't want the religious object touching her. He blesses her with holy water. She's trying to, move away. She doesn't want to be touched by it. This went on for several hours. I actually ended up having to assist in the exorcism by holding the bowl of holy water as he was trying to put it on her. About midway through, she relaxed, and it was like her eyes cleared. And she looked up, and she's like, "Well, what happened? What's going on?" And he said, "Well, you've had something in you. Something took over you." And she's like, "No, I don't remember anything." And she relaxed, and she went in to hug the priest. Priest hugs her back, and he says, "Child, what's your name?" And she wouldn't answer him. And she started to breathe heavy again, and she started tightening up. He said, "You're not gone, are you?" And she said no, but it wasn't her voice. Mm-hmm. So we continued again for another hour or so before, I'll shorten it up, the priest was able to deliver the entity out of her body. Of the 6 or 7 of us that were there, we all noticed, just being involved in it, several hours had passed from the time that the house blessing started to the exorcism until everything was clean and done. Time had literally stopped because we all looked at our watches and the time on the stove, and only about an hour had passed in real time. I have no explanation for it. Several of us thought that our watches had just given out, looked at the watch, the watch isn't working anymore. But, Stan, I don't have any other explanation for it. Time stopped during that time, during that exorcism. Now, where we learned our lesson in that is when we went home after it was all said and done. That team, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, they ceased being a team after that because they didn't know how to look out for each other afterwards, because everybody deals with things in their own way. No one had ever seen anything like that before. And it was legitimate post-traumatic stress disorder. Everybody dealt with it in their own way. People were going in, people that normally were, you'd hear from them every day, weren't hearing from them anymore. I'm a very outgoing person. That's one of the things that Ed and Leah can tell you. I like to talk. And if I'm on an investigation or something's going on and I suddenly shut completely down and start holding myself up away from everybody, something's wrong. Mm-hmm. And that's what what all of us did. And a lot of people, there's people that, to this day, they're still not the same because of it. But that's one of the things that we want to try to educate teams on is it's not just about, it is the first and foremost thing you're there for is to help the client. But when the client's taken care of and the work with them is done, your work isn't over. You've got to take care of your own. You've got to take care of yourselves and your team. we recommend we'll get together or so a day after an investigation just to eat or sit around and just talk. Because when you stop staying in contact with your family, so to speak, and that's what we are, that's when the devil tries to come in and drive a wedge through you further. So that's something, I mean, anybody that's listening right now, you end up in a situation like that, you go on an investigation, stay in contact with your team members, take care of yourselves as well. Because without your partners in your team, y'all can't help your community.
You're absolutely right. Well, guys, it's 8:09. If you'll I'm going to give everybody a little bit of a break. We're going to take off for about 10 minutes, and that way, Michael, you can kind of rest your voice, brother, and get ready for round 2. Would that be okay?
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Well, guys, y'all hang on, and everybody, thank you for listening to Wiregrass Haunts. We're going to take about a 10-minute break. Everybody get up and go get a beverage, whatever that you need to do. We thank you so much for listening. By the way, think of some questions. I've noticed that there's some in the chat room. We'll be asking some of those questions when we come back. But if you have any more, just put them in the chat room, and my wife is going to help me. Isn't that right, Teresa? With these questions. So, well, guys, y'all hang on, and we'll be back in just a minute. Yeah, thank y'all for listening to Wiregrass Haunts. We'll be back in just
She said,
Have you thought about becoming a published author? Don't have time around work, school, or family? Let us do the work for you. Save time by allowing eWriter Resources to work for you. You deserve the best online writing services available. Let us make your book and your dreams come true. Be a published author in 14 days when we custom ghostwrite your ebook. If you need an expert, allow us to handle your business writing and ebook. We are capable of creating ebook covers, websites, and all the content to go on it. Check us out at ewriterresources.com.
Welcome to the Voices Community Radio Network.
Are you struggling with credit issues? Bad credit keeping you from pursuing all your dreams? Coleman Credit Repair is here and will get you back on top. It does not matter whether you have had any negative marks on your credit report, repossessions, bankruptcies, foreclosures, tax liens, medical bills, student loans. All of these things are negative to your credit report. However, Coleman Credit Recovery can help you and your credit recover in a way that will make you feel like you are back on top of it all. Give Shawana Coleman a call today and find out for yourself how Coleman Credit Recovery can get you back on top of your game. Call today at 334-405-4351. Again, the number is 334-405-4351. The only regret you might have is not calling Coleman Credit Recovery sooner. want to have family portraits made but can't afford the costly photographers out there? Do you want to help someone local grow their business with low-priced, budget-friendly photo shoots? Would you rather have someone who is understanding of what you need in a photo of your family? Want someone who will listen when you have ideas during your photo shoot? Call Trista Yates Photography. We do newborn, senior, family, professional headshots, as well as birthday shoots to celebrate every year of your child's life. Need a holiday photo? One for your Christmas card? Look up Trista Yates Photography on Facebook and give her page a look. Great photos, better pricing. You won't be disappointed. Call Trista Yates Photography at 334-718-8840. Again, 334-718-8840.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Wiregrass Haunts. I am Stan Fikes, your host. We've got a great show going, and y'all, it's been really exciting. We've got a great group of guys that's with us tonight, and a gal, so I'm going to discriminate there. But we have Paranormal Help Research Bureau, and it is Edward Morgan and Michael and Leah Goldston. So, guys, I asked everybody to post some questions in the chat room, and we're gonna start off. Are you guys still there?
Absolutely, Stan. We're here.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna go through a few of these questions. I'm gonna have to scroll back up on the chat room, and
okay.
So y'all bear with me just a minute. There's a guy named Darren Wedlock. He is actually in New Zealand, and he actually has a radio show on this network as well, Seeing the Unseen. He's a great guy, but his question is: does the team believe all of the hauntings are demons, or sometimes disembodied spirits or people?
Well, we actually answered this question. Something that we approached our team is we had to figure out exactly what we believe, why we believe it, and how we can broadcast that to other individuals. We believe in three basic things: angels, demons, and residual energy. The energy thing is like, you've been in an apartment complex, two people are yelling and screaming. You didn't see the fight, but you can feel the tension. If you multiply that on a higher field, that's kind of what we're picking up. Then you get into things where people have some sensitivities. We can do that. But as far as disembodied spirits, we don't believe that. We believe that's a low view on God. The Bible clearly says to be absent from the bodies to be present with the Lord. If you made decisions for Christ, you're going upstairs. If not, you're going down. That's just the way it is. That's what He wrote. That's His command. So for the idea of I get to hang out on this plane of existence and I get to disobey God, I just don't think there's a biblical basis for that. Now, the energy thing, the residual energy thing, with the way our current social situations in the world, more people are getting involved in the occult and ghost hunting, and they're approaching it from the wrong angle. We've seen situations where people would bring in a Ouija board, candles, the whole 9 yards, and they just do that to get evidence, and that's dangerous. That's not what we do. But to answer your question, no. Demonic, angels, or energy. That's the only three options. Your Aunt Patty can't come and hang out with you. It is a possibility that in a deep, you're, God forbid, you're suicidal or you're going through a tough time, the Lord can send an angel. The Holy Spirit can show up, and sometimes it's a possibility just so you don't completely go spaz, which I would understand, that this angel takes the form of
something that's more comfortable.
That you're more, you can understand, you can relate to. But you got to be careful with that, Stan.
Yeah.
If God can do it, the devil has been using that trick since the beginning of time. You know, he was able to manipulate a third of the angels to go with him.
Right.
But to answer the question that was posted from the gentleman from New Zealand, we believe as a team, as a ministry, from a biblical point, angels, demons, and residual energy, point blank. There's no in between.
Gotcha. All right. My wife had a question, and I know that you guys have answered some of these in the chat room, but I wanted to kind of get them out over the air. So that's why I'm kind of re-asking them. Do you ever ask for a mental health statement?
I'm sorry, I think that's plain talk. Can you repeat that?
I said, my wife asked the question, do you ever ask for a mental health statement from your client?
Yes, we always ask for a mental health statement. Yes.
Okay. Now, is that in the form of paperwork, or is that just something that you guys like ask questions on, or how do you approach that?
We do have a form that we generally just do it through our initial interview process, verbally.
That's it. And well, this is not in the chat room, but I'm going to ask this as well. Do you also cover drug use, that type of thing?
Absolutely.
So,
yes,
Stan, let me go a little bit more detail with that. What we do is, so we get an email or a phone call from client ABC. One of the things to do is we'll check the social media post, find any kind of, this will probably upset some listeners. Not saying it's good, bad, or indifferent, just for informational and team safety. We're also responsible, we don't want to walk into a place where this individual has a history of stabbing folks.
right.
And so, but we do background checks. It's all internet based. We do property evaluations. We go in and we think there's a mental issue. We'll approach that very gently. We don't want to come out and say, hey, we think you're back full of nuts. But we want to say, hey, what's the issue? And be honest with you, the way that it's approached, Stan, Michael and Leah do a great job at this, is most of our clients will honest and openly go, look, I want this fixed, here's everything, and they'll spill out all the beans. We keep all that information private within ourselves, us three, and our client. Names or locations, none of that's not really discussed to anyone else.
And what really helps is I'm actually a nurse in the mental health field. So I've learned how to ask those questions and approach it in a sensitive way to where they don't feel a judgment or, oh, well, you just think I'm nuts, or you're just concentrating on the fact that I do have mental illness and you're not really validating what's going on. They can still have mental illness, but still have problems or paranormal problems. So it's having that training, and that's something I do every day, is very helpful when we go on to these cases and actually run into those types of situations.
So this is a question that I wanted to ask. You have a client that's experiencing paranormal activity, or what we would classify as paranormal activity, and you find out that they have some sort of psychiatric issue. Would you contribute the paranormal activity from the psychiatric issue, or vice versa? Would the psychiatric?
What saying is the chicken or egg? Which came first?
Yeah, basically the chicken or egg.
What we have to do is and a lot of it's with Leah's background, her gifts, and Michael's ability just to debunk. We'll look at evidence around the house, individuals, their own family members. Of course, most of my family members will say I'm a little weird anyways. But what we have to do, we have to evaluate that, and we have to decide. And a lot of it's just prayer. We get to a point where we can't make a determination. So we get together and we pray on a regular basis. It's a requirement. We can't do this without God's instruction and help and protection. We have to figure out what is the greatest need. Okay, if it's a medication issue and they're having mental health issues, again, we have those contacts. We'll send them off that way. And at the same time, we'll start evaluating their home, their residence, their lifestyles, and we'll start coordinating that with that. Again, I can't give God enough glory for having those community contacts that when we reached out didn't go, nah, you've lost your mind. They looked at us and go, these people need help. We're here to help. We might not agree. We might agree. That doesn't matter. Let's help these individuals. And that's the biggest thing for our team.
And I want to add in, this is also to your question. We have had instances where people had mental issues, but the fact that they were being oppressed by the demonic magnified those mental issues, because the enemy is going to attack you at your weakest, and it's going to attack your weaknesses. So if you already have some sort of mental issue, it can actually be magnified through the demonic.
So do you think maybe, and this is something I wondered, you have a case where, as you were talking about earlier, that teenager had a possession. Have you ever wondered that maybe when they exorcised this demon, and if they had any type of psychiatric issue, could it have been originally because of the demon? Because we know that demonic entities can set for years and years and years and years and years and not affect anything, and then turn around one Tuesday, somebody's possessed, and or issues are coming about. So some of those psychiatric issues that's been happening for years and years and years could have been led on by the demonic entity. Could it not?
Yeah, it's of course it's case by case basis, but there are a lot of people that are diagnosed with mental illness where it's only demonic oppression. So, and then on the other hand, I'm not saying that all mental illness is demonic. I mean, there's some that have legit chemical imbalance or whatever pathologically is going on with that patient, and it's legitimate mental illness. There are others that, whether it's something that has just attached itself to them through life experiences or maybe through abuse or other types of things that have happened, it's just another oppressing factor from the demonic realm to keep them weak, to keep them vulnerable, to keep them open to attack. It can also come through generational ties. So if you have, let's say, a family history of mental illness that is not founded pathologically through regular medical means, then it can be passed down from generation to generation as being a tie of oppression.
So on some of these cases where there's actually been an exorcism and these demons have been cast out, did their psychiatric issues get better, or did the aftermath of that? And of course, we know God is great, and once His Holy Spirit fills somebody, there can't be anything else. So, but was there any type of residual left from that possession that would cause them to have psychiatric issues?
Well, when we talk about psychiatric issues, it's such a huge, broad range and spectrum. It can be anywhere from so mild to where, I may have a little bit of anxiety when I'm out in public, to full-blown panic. I'm incapacitated. I cannot function. I'm hiding under a blanket, leave me alone type thing. In some of those cases, I've seen some where they just walked away, never had another issue that was expressed. You got to go with that too. They may not have been open about their experiences after, but there's been some that actually need some additional counseling to kind of help them. I mean, it's like being in a war. Mm-hmm. Soldiers come back with PTSD, other type of anxiety issues that need to be addressed, and over time will diminish as long as they keep pushing through, claiming that authority. They have that support system, and they're empowered.
Gotcha. I agree with that, sure. All right, I'm going to ask another question, and it's kind of in a roundabout way. You already answered Teresa's question earlier that you get them help afterwards, and I think that is just totally awesome. You guys rock when it comes to that. That's for sure good. Do you think that paranormal shows on TV has ruined the reputation, if you will, of groups that try to help people like you guys and like we do, and these legitimate groups that are out there for that reason, not to be on TV? Or so do you think, like, and I use this reference a lot, Zach Bagans, there's no way that every other show you can get possessed and what do you have, a bishop on standby or something? It just doesn't work that way. And I think that that's putting a negative message out there. You got children that's watching these shows, and they're running out to a cemetery somewhere with a Ouija board, or they buy a spirit box on eBay, and they're contacting spirits, and they have no earthly idea what they're getting into. And I think these TV shows are just ruining things like that. I mean, ruining the paranormal field.
Right. And I agree 100%. We have seen progression with these shows. Watching them when they first started out, the intent was good. They had a good purpose. They were trying to help people, but as they evolve, in order to keep ratings, to keep entertainment up, to keep a show profitable, you have seen over the years them make compromises in order to keep it profitable, to keep it popular. In the case that you brought up about Zach Bagans, I've met Zach, and in the beginning he was your most down to earth, really had a good vision for the field, was really wanting to help people, had really good intention. But over the years, watching his show and how he has progressed, how he's become more popular, how he even conducts investigations now is completely opposite than what he started out as. Now he's going into locations, arms wide open, saying, hey, hit me, do something to me, come into me. And use my energy. And that was his number one rule in the very beginning that he was adamant about, of never do these things, because now you're going to open yourself up. He has just opened himself up to so much. And I feel terrible for him, because he has good intention, but had good intention, but with popularity, there comes that crossroads of compromise. And unfortunately, just based on what I see now from his show, he has taken that compromise road. Right.
And a lot of times the ratings and the money outweighs the right. So awesome. I agree with that totally. I'm going to ask you another question. I kind of hate bombarding you with this, but Teresa asked a lot of questions, y'all. Teresa wants to know, and this is for you, Leah. Can you turn your gift off if it gets to be too much for you during a case? And then can you turn it back on?
There have been times where I don't know if I'd really call it turning it off. I've learned how to protect myself or kind of shut myself down in a way to where it's just, I guess it's like one of those garage doors where I've come across a situation. It is overwhelming. It's just coming at me too fast. And so I'll kind of just shut that garage door down, take a breather, step out of the situation, and then slowly step back into it. Not always can I anticipate when I walk into a room that I'm just going to ease into it and be able to just slowly start to, absorb the energy or whatever's in the atmosphere there. Sometimes it just hits me square in the face, but there have been times to where I've just completely shut down.
I've had to physically remove her from locations, physically move her because she's had to shut down so abruptly and so totally because of how powerful whatever it is that's there.
It's kind of like when you come across a bully and they kind of bow up on you and they just want to bum rush you to a degree. Sometimes we've went into situations where it's just kind of hit me like that. So I've just immediately have just shut myself down. And, sometimes it affects me physically to where I don't really pass out to the degree I don't know what's going on. But I guess I go a little limp or weak. And so I do have help getting outside and then regaining my composure.
Gotcha. I have a couple questions actually that was asked last night. This listener wanted to know, how do you know that it's a demon or just, he said malevolent spirit. Now, I have a thought on that myself, but I want you guys to answer that for him and just tell us all, how do you distinguish between the two, or are they the same thing?
I don't really see how you can distinguish between the two. I haven't met a demon that is very personable or sweet. They're generally all malevolent. They may, of course, appear to you as a familiar or something familiar or benign, but their intention is not good. And, just like a petulant child, if you don't give it what it wants, it's going to start kicking and screaming eventually. So I would say, does everyone agree that it's one and the same?
Yeah, there's no difference.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I mean, I thought the same thing, but anyway, that's good. And I had also been asked by a listener, they sent it to my Facebook Messenger, what is the definition of demon?
Wow. So do you want a 2-hour or you want so from a paranormal point of view, a demon is a fallen angel.
Yes.
Their only purpose is to wreak havoc and divert your eyes away from God. That's their only purpose. It's the only thing they're going to do.
To torment you.
That's it. They're going to find your chink in your armor. They're going to manipulate you slowly over and over and over. And and this is something for investigators, if Leah is strong in one thing, and let's say Michael has a weakness in another, it'll go after Michael to draw Leah's attention toward Michael. That way her guard is down and she can be attacked. So that's something as paranormal investigators we've got to constantly, and I speak this from experience, Stan. We had a case a while back that 2 days later, I was in a parking lot crying in my front seat. And Leah had the discernment to tell Michael. Michael contacted me. I did not do my responsibilities to protect myself. I didn't call out to my team. I had the mentality I'm a big bad guy. I know the scriptures inside and out. I knew what to say, how to say it, but I did not have the humbleness to go to my other teammates and go, I'm having issues. That's what we got to be careful about as investigators is these demonic forces. You've got to be careful. I'll tell you this story, Stan. We went on an investigation. We had an investigator, and I, Lord is my witness. She was telling us she stole holy water from a church. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, does it? Do you?
No, not at all.
Then, before the investigation, she breaks out her rosary beads, her smudging, her little voodoo stick. I mean, she did a little dab-a-doo of everything. And a house cannot stand on multiple foundations. You've got to have a firm foundation of what you believe, why you believe it. You'll be able to communicate what you believe and use that foundation. Right. And as investigators, I will warn all investigators, be careful. Because if you're an investigator and you're protecting yourself and you're not protecting your family, that's my biggest concern. I think that's Michael and Leah's biggest concern. We've got kids, we've got grandkids, we've got coworkers, we've got church members that we go to church with. That's my biggest concern. What if these things that have this authority, that has this, their only purpose in this life is to divert us from God, is using that one person we have a special relationship with at church or a coworker to manipulate us. And it takes a lot of self-awareness. One thing that I would suggest to everybody, Stan, investigators, take some alone time. Don't, what I mean by that is, don't investigate every single weekend. Don't watch every single ghost hunter show. Don't go all to these paid haunted locations. For God's sake, take a break. Go camping. Go to the movies. Right? I'm man enough to admit I can't watch ghost shows. I can't watch scary movies. The last time I did, my wife had to get me out of the bathroom, Stan. I went to the penitentiary. I've had my back broke. But the enemy knows if he gets in my head, he can scare me and divert what God's called me to do as an investigator. So that's one of those things. But to answer the question, a demon, something that's never lived, it disobeyed God, it was cast out of heaven, and its only purpose is to divert us away from God and to manipulate us. Look at the story of Jesus when Jesus was alone, right? Mm-hmm. Satan said, hey, I'll give you this authority. I'll give you this power. I'll give you this glory. Now, you take that, you look at Zacchaeus. You see a comparison there? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's Jesus by any means. Right. What I'm saying is that Zacchaeus has fell into, like many investigators, I've got a cool website. You look at my website, it's a resume. I've done all these scary locations, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Are you able to go say, this client can sleep at peace at night? That's the thing. That's what we do, Sam. And I urge people to be careful with this stuff.
And I think what you're saying is Zach is where you're making the comparison there. It's like Zach has accepted the temptations.
Absolutely.
Where Jesus said, no, which, I'm sorry, I'm going to paraphrase. I love the story about the temptation of Jesus, especially whenever he's like, Satan tells him, if you'll bow down before me, I'll give you the kingdoms of the world. And at that point, I have to envision Jesus kind of looking at him and going, why would I take the kingdoms of the world? I own the world, man. What are you thinking? But
right.
Zach has accepted the temptations. He's accepted the kingdoms and the power, so to speak. So I see where Ed's making that example there. Zach has accepted it fully.
But also, with that being said, we all make mistakes. We all fall short. We all give in to temptation. That doesn't mean that I'm just going to write you off or,
right.
Well, you just did what I said, so, good luck for you or, work it out type thing. we still have to be a constant source, a constant support for those that are struggling. It's not easy. I mean, I've seen this in the medical field. You know, if you, a person that has been diagnosed with diabetes, they're told, okay, now you're going to have to do a complete diet change, complete lifestyle change than what you've ever known for your whole life. It is tough. I don't know about you, but I've tried to diet before, and forget it. You know, it's tough. But
absolutely.
It's the same instance. This is life or death. It really is. And I think that we have lessened it in the paranormal field, and to a degree of, well, you know, you've got this going on, you've got that going on, you know, just sprinkle some salt here or there, and now you have the magic pill. It's not like that. We are dealing with people's lives, period. And if they do decide, I mean, I'm in a moment now, a really good friend of mine that is making choices of their own. And he is deciding, you know, to do other things than what he knows he should do. I'm not walking away from that friend. I'm not going to say, well, forget you. You didn't do what I suggested, or, you know, you're not doing the right thing. You still stick with them. You support them in any way that you can. You are there to be that person to help catch them when they do hit that rock bottom.
I agree.
You don't leave
them
stranded. Don't ever leave them stranded.
That's right. You don't. And I've seen so many people do that, and I've had that done to me. And my background is a really dark one, and it's kind of a strange background. You would have thought that I wouldn't get in the paranormal field because, and I'll tell anybody, I was one of the biggest Satanists you ever wanted to see. That's how I know that demons manifest themselves physically, and I've witnessed it. You know, if you've ever seen a demon walk from person to person, and there was someone that asked a question, can a demon possess anyone they want at any time? In my opinion, they may not be able to possess them at any time or any person, but they're able to walk through to affect that physical body. I've seen it. And so that is horrible in itself. And one of the reasons I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
And that's one of the reasons why I started searching for things when I got into the paranormal field. I've kind of gotten away from the demons per se. And it's personal things with me. And I've had some issues since I've been, of course, I'm saved. You know, I love Christ, and he's in my heart, and I'm in this to help people because I know what some people have gone through. Some of my close friends gone through similar things of possession or oppression, and they just couldn't deal with it. I had several to commit suicide because of it. And that was where I was going with the psychiatric needs, because after the exorcism on a couple of these people, they ended up committing suicide because they couldn't deal with the aftermath of the physical possession of their body. And,
well,
you know,
along those lines, I think we kind of get lost in terminology when we talk about possession and oppression and things like that. One thing that we need to understand is you can have a a demon living or residing in your house being you, your body, your temple. And you may not even know that they are there, just because they may be there inhabiting and wreaking havoc and causing all kinds of issues that you may not have the wisdom to see at that moment, doesn't make you possessed. We think that if the devil is in me, then I'm possessed. I think when we get to a point of possession is when we have relinquished our will and our complete obedience to the demonic. That's when we get into complete possession. I try to use oppression to kind of separate that. Oppression's more like, yeah, I've got a few demons living in some bedrooms in my house, but that's just stuff I need to be delivered from, or I need to pray about for God's guidance or wisdom to eradicate out of my life, and that's where that insight or that godly wisdom or discernment comes from, is to be able to speak to those things specifically so they can leave out of your life. But in those cases where maybe a exorcism has taken place, and I really don't like, personally, talking about myself, I don't really like the term exorcism. I think it's got a stigma to it of, anybody that is exorcised or whatever is just in complete demonic possession. I like deliverance, more of a term. Sure. You can be delivered from things that are of demonic nature, but in those cases where people have maybe been exorcised and they still, may commit suicide. When you go through an actual exorcism and go through those rites, if you've ever listened to the verbiage or all of the things that they go through, it speaks in generalizations. It doesn't speak to anything specifically other than the entity itself. Well, you have to speak to those things specifically, and that's biblically based. You have to call those things out. Here's my problem. I have demon of pornography or demon of alcoholism or demon of gossip or speaking death with my tongue or any of those things like that. You've got to speak to them specifically in order to assume or take over that authority of it and get rid of it. So when you speak to generalizations, you're not really pinpointing. That's kind of like going to the doctor and the doctor says, well, yeah, you're sick. Well, what do I have specifically so I can treat it? Right. And that goes back to, getting the name. When we talked about that in the very beginning, asking for its name. It's not always a proper name. Yeah, I'm the devil Billy Bob, cast me out. Sometimes it's an action, or it's, my name is sexual immorality. Right. My name is lust. Whatever it is, we have to speak to those things directly, or we will not get complete deliverance.
Right. Awesome. It's 9, but that's okay if y'all still want to go on. Y'all okay with everything? Are y'all good?
Okay, y'all speak. I'm done.
We're afraid of speaking when Leah's speaking. We tend to get hurt.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. How about we wrap up? Can we come back another time?
Sure. Absolutely. We can do a whole nother show if you want to, brother.
Absolutely.
I'll have to come back. I'll have to go ahead.
You tell me the time and we'll be back.
Okay. Well, I'm not exactly near. Well, my calendar is buried deep in my laptop, and
that's all right.
if you'll just let me message you and
Absolutely.
get you another date, because I definitely want to continue this. You guys are awesome.
I appreciate
I
it.
really applaud the work that you guys are doing. And
Hey, it's all God's glory. And the one thing I'd like to say, Stan, is that we thank you for this opportunity. We thank you for giving God the glory in this battle that's coming, and it's going to be a battle no one understands. People are going to see and have to deal with things that probably most of your ministers aren't trained to do. God has been gracious enough, despite our own stupidity sometimes as a team. We have learned. He's taught us things. And if anybody or yourself has a question, jump on our Facebook, shoot us a message. Leah's usually answered within 30 seconds. Oh, yeah. Can we shamelessly plug ourselves? It's on the chat there, Stan.
Absolutely. You put your website. Y'all tell everybody who you are, where you are, and how to get in touch with you.
Absolutely. Even if they're not in our area, hey, give us a call, shoot us an email. If you've got issues or you're an investigator and you've got concerns, hey, we'll help you out. That's what we're here for. That's why we have a phone number. That's why we got email. That's why we have Leah as an admin. She's able to answer all these questions. But Stan, we really do appreciate it. This has been great. I just want to, again, thank you so much, Stan.
Yeah, totally. Thanks a lot, man.
You're very welcome, and we have loved you guys being on the show tonight, and definitely going to get you another date because, like I said, I want to continue this. And guys, y'all just be blessed and keep up the great work for God. And,
amen, brother. Amen.
We need more teams like y'all. So,
yes, sir.
well, I want to thank everybody for listening to Wiregrass Haunts, and these guys are posting their website and stuff like that in the chat room. And guys, I'm gonna post it later on our social media stuff. And but I hope y'all are blessed and be blessed. And I am definitely gonna start asking y'all some questions. If I have something I'm confused about, Leah, guess what? You and I are gonna be messenger buddies. So, but you guys, thanks for being on the show, and y'all have a blessed night. Everybody, thank you for listening to Wiregrass Haunts. We will talk to you guys next week. Everybody be blessed. Thanks.
This has been a production of the Voices Carry Radio Network.